Hello, friends. Ted Wilcox here again to bring you into another thrilling chapter in our continuing saga of magic, mystery, and the American century. But before we begin, here's Charlie Pulcher with a brief review of our last episode.
Last time, inside the Demon Lord's stronghold, Mickey and Whiskey finally met Henry Butcher, the scarred and deeply unsettling leader of the vampires. And to their surprise, he talked. Butcher admitted the Demon Lords had taken the missing women, but claimed they were being controlled by a larger operation tied to the LME and a mysterious German named Schultz. Then things got worse. As Butcher spiraled into panic, Mickey realized the vampires weren't acting naturally. They were terrified, addicted, connected by whatever bliss truly was. And before either of them could react, Butcher revealed the existence of another drug, Zeal. Now, trapped inside the office as Butcher's body twists into something monstrous, Mickey and Whiskey are about to learn what the Demon Lords were truly afraid of. What happens next? We'll find out now.
This is the Mythic Chronicles. Entry 1. Crime Wave.
Chapter 30. Mickey causes a scene. October 25th, 1951. Mickey watched in transfixed horror as the vampire Henry Butcher, leader of the Demon Lord Motorcycle Club, transformed into something straight out of the deeper pits of hell. The whites of his eyes turned blood red while capillaries burst. His jaw cracked, distending with a sickening pop, his grin stretching past human limits. Skin split, and he screamed a sound halfway between agony and ecstasy. Blinking, she wrenched her gaze away from the grotesque scene and found Mononobe. "What'd I tell ya?" she said, flicking her wrist. The hidden device in her sleeve extended with a hiss. "Everything's going according to plan." 3 feet of rune-etched steel, thick as both her thumbs, snapped into her palm as Butcher shrieked again, and the room erupted into chaos. Frank and his buddy lunged, moving faster than the eye could track. Exactly as she thought they would. Mickey pushed Anima through the device, ducked under Frank's grasp, and drove the rod into his gut. A burst of golden sparks exploded on impact. Arcane lightning jolted through the vampire's body as the sortilege trammel contrivance, or stake, severed his connection to his blood anima reserve, the power that fueled his superhuman strength, speed, and healing. The blow didn't break skin, but the sharp scent of ozone filled the air as Frank choked. His momentum faltered, and he crumpled. Mickey whirled, pivoting around his falling bulk, and with every ounce of strength she could dredge up, slammed the rod into the second vampire's knee. Snap. Resilient as they were, ligaments still tore, bone still broke. Golden sparks showered as the vampire dropped, howling. Some fighters called battle a proving ground. Mickey was more of a pragmatist. She drew her pistol and put a bullet through the vampire's skull. With his strength and healing severed by the stake, he was as fragile as any human. His head burst like a ripe melon, and his body lay still. A roar exploded behind her as Frank got back to his feet. Even without his supernatural edge, he was still 300 pounds of fury, swinging wild haymakers. She twisted, rolling with the blow, but the glancing hit still sent pain lancing through her shoulder. White flashed across her vision. Her arm went numb, and the stake clattered to the floor. Frank pressed forward, relentless, throwing wild strikes that forced Mickey onto the defensive. Grimacing, she ducked and dodged, running on instinct. The wind from near misses whipped at her hair, but she stayed a half step ahead, until her foot caught the leg of the vampire she'd already killed, and she stumbled. She recovered fast, the misstep costing her only half a heartbeat. But that was all she had to give. Time stretched. Her heart pounded in her ears. She turned to see Frank's eyes widen as he roared, launching a devastating blow toward her head. Move, she thought. Do something. But there wasn't time. The smell of blood and ozone hung thick in the air. This blow likely wouldn't kill her, but it would end her, leave her broken, helpless for the next. The shadow of Frank's arm fell across her face, and she flinched, unable even to close her eyes in time, which, as it turned out, was fortuitous. It let her see clearly when a suited figure blurred into view and caught the blow one-handed. Mickey blinked. Mononobe. Her gaze darted to the far side of the room, where the third vampire lay in a mangled heap, head twisted the wrong way. By the 9. The strength it took to do that was insane. She looked back, pulse stuttering. Through her true sight, she saw shadows coiling over Mononobe, crawling across him like a sentient shroud as he held Frank in place. What in all the hells is he? There wasn't time to think. Veins bulging, Frank wrenched free with a roar and charged Mononobe, swinging wild and fast. He was a street brawler, pure brute force, no finesse, which, with his size and speed, usually worked. But not against Mononobe. With calm precision, Mononobe deflected every blow. Sharp, effortless movements flowed around Frank's attacks. Without breaking stride, he snapped a punch into Frank's throat. The vampire's roar cut off in a strangled croak. But Frank was tough. He barreled forward and drove a low kick at Mononobe's groin. Mononobe shifted, letting the blow glance off his thigh. In the same motion, his heel came down hard, the crunch of shattered leather and bone echoing as Frank's boot collapsed. Frank reeled off balance, and Mononobe drove an elbow into his solar plexus. The vampire staggered, gasping, but recovered fast. An ugly smile spread across his face, fangs bared, rage still burning in his eyes as he straightened to his full height. "That all you got, bitch?" he sneered. Mononobe's violet gaze flickered as his lips twitched into a micro-smile. "No," he said. Then he stepped aside as Mickey raised her Fleshberg-enhanced Colt 1911. She locked eyes with Frank, offered him a wink, and squeezed the trigger. Runes flared molten gold as the blast hit like a cannonball of lightning-infused fury, and Frank's chest erupted, a gaping hole torn straight through him. The force ripped through flesh, vaporized stone and brick, and punched a path into the next building. For a heartbeat, Frank simply stood there, blinking dumbly. Then the light drained from his eyes as his body collapsed in a hulking, boneless heap. Despite the whiplash and the ringing in her ears from the blast, a grin spread across Mickey's face. "Who's the bitch A shrieking roar cut her off, and her gaze snapped to the desk. Butcher had finished his transformation. Easily 8 feet tall now, limbs swollen, skin stretched tight over a pulsing web of green and purple veins. His claw-tipped hands flexed. His jaw had elongated into something more crocodilian than human, and jagged teeth gleamed as he let out a scream of disoriented bloodlust. "Enough of that, thanks," Mickey muttered, and shot him in the deformed skull. Runes flared, the gun roared, and Butcher's head exploded in a gore-slick eruption. Mickey's grin faded as the whiplash hit. "That's what you get," she panted. Even with her knack for magic devices, back-to-back enhanced shots left her lightheaded, chest heaving like she'd just sprinted uphill. Maybe Rosie was right about the damn cigarettes. "For stepping on my line." "We need to go," Mononobe said, rolling Frank's body over, searching his pockets. "You think?" she puffed, wincing as she straightened and rolled her shoulder. She reached the door first and cracked it open. Bang! A spine-tingling kapwing rang out as a bullet ricocheted off the doorframe, zipping past her ear with a whine that rattled her teeth. She flinched, slamming the door shut with a startled squawk. Ahem, ahem. Heart hammering, she turned to see Mononobe smirking. "May I?" he asked, violet eyes gleaming. The jerk. Glowering, she stepped aside. "Why not?" He leaned his head against the door, eyes closing. His shadow rippled like silk caught in the wind, and he said, "There's a lot of activity out there." Mickey rolled her eyes. "You don't say." Annoyance flickered, but he stayed focused. More motorcycles just arrived. They're immobilizing, clearing the bar, setting a perimeter. You surprised them. They've... Crack! He jerked back as a bullet punched through the door where his head had been. "We have 30 seconds before they breach." He brushed past her, dragging a heavy chair to wedge against the door. "We need to go. Now." Mickey had already started to look for a way out. Yeah, she muttered, sweeping the room. "I heard you the first time." She spotted the curtain behind the desk. "Window!" she shouted, dashing toward it. She yanked the heavy drapes aside. Uh-oh. Oh, hells. Thick metal bars were bolted across the frame. A fresh hail of bullets tore through the room. Mickey hit the deck. Mononobe fired 2 shots through a hole, then glanced her way. "Switch with me." Keeping low, Mickey scrambled back to the door, returning fire through another gap. Her enhanced round blasted a chunk out of their barricade. The men outside scattered. Behind her, Mononobe's chair smashed against the barred window. Glass shattered, but the bars didn't budge. Mickey risked a glance through the door. The hallway crawled with leather-vested men. She emptied her clip, finishing with a half-charged enhanced round. The blast sent them scrambling, screams echoing. Panting, she slammed home her second-to-last magazine when a grunt snapped her attention to the side. Mononobe crashed into the liquor shelves, bottles shattering as he crumpled in a heap. Her eyes followed the arc that had thrown him. To Butcher. The vampire's head had mostly regrown. Black, bloodied eyes gleamed as skin still knit over sinew and exposed muscle. Forgetting the door, Mickey sprang up and unloaded into him. He shrieked, but the non-enhanced rounds barely slowed him. By the time her gun clicked empty, .45 slugs were already oozing from his wounds like leaden drops of blood as his flesh knitted shut. He grinned, lips peeling back to reveal serrated teeth as he slowly closed the distance. "What's so damn funny?" Mickey growled, ejecting her clip and slamming home her last. "You, weakness," he rumbled, voice thick, garbled. Her lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. "Oh, you want strength?" She brushed a thumb across the golden bear paw at her neck, Owen's charm, and channeled her anima. Her eyes flared to match the burning gold of the pendant as power surged through her, flooding her limbs with vitality. With a burst of speed, she lunged, aiming a fist at Butcher's head. The punch that would have dented steel snapped his head to the side and... he laughed. Snarling, she pivoted and drove a kick between his legs. She might as well have kicked a tree trunk. She snapped another punch at his throat. He caught her fist and laughed harder. "Not enough," he rasped. His grip tightened. Pain exploded in her knuckles. She wrenched at her arm, but Frank's strength had been feathers and butterfly kisses compared to Butcher. He didn't budge. "Okay," she wheezed, knees buckling. A shadow slid across the floor. "You might have a point." Butcher squeezed harder. Bones creaked. Mickey cried out, but stayed on her feet. Teeth clenched, she met his gleaming, bloody eyes. "You want to know what I think is funny?" Butcher tilted his head, curious, and her grimace twisted into a grin. "That you forgot about the real monster in the room." A blazing purple cord snapped around Butcher's wrist. His eyes widened. He shrieked, twisting to see Mononobe, blood streaking down his face, left arm hanging wrong, standing at the other end, holding the cord tight. His eyes glowed amethyst. His mouth quirked in a rictus grin. Mickey watched as his shadow billowed around him like a storm-caught cloak. One tendril slid around his dislocated arm, coiling tighter until, with a sickening pop, it snapped back into place. And gripping the cord with both hands, Mononobe pulled. Butcher screamed as it chewed through his wrist, greasy smoke curling from his flesh. Mononobe's slitted eyes flicked to Mickey. "Hurry. Whatever he's on, it's healing him. Use that ring of yours." Mickey winced. "Can't. It's a one-hit wonder. Needs to recharge." He blinked. "And you wasted it? On me?" She shot him a glare. "Not sure now's the time to play armchair quarterback, Mononobe." That earned a flicker of a scowl, but before he could reply, Butcher roared, grabbing the cord with his free hand, and pulled. "Do something!" Mononobe growled, boots scraping closer to Butcher. Mickey's mind raced. She was nearly out of ammo. Her enhanced strength hadn't slowed him. Even the enhanced rounds hadn't kept him down. She scanned the room, strewn with debris, broken glass, bodies, but nothing that could stop this. She cursed. If she hadn't burned her ring on Mononobe, maybe she could have cut off whatever magic was. Wait. Under all that invincible flesh, Butcher was still a vampire, a parasite, leeching anima from the blood he drank to fuel that monstrous body, which meant he was vulnerable to the right tool. And I brought the right tool. Her gaze darted to the ruined liquor shelves. On the far side of the room, half buried in splintered wood and broken bottles, was the stake. Her stomach dropped. Its handle jutted up from the wreckage, directly past Butcher. No time to think. She bolted. Butcher's roar cut off as he turned, lunging. A wild swipe missed as she rolled under it, glass crunching beneath her. She came up hard, driving forward, but stumbled when his massive hand clamped around her ankle. She twisted, crashed onto her back, and fired. The shot punched a chunk from his shoulder, but he barely flinched. One-handed, he slapped the gun aside, grabbed her jacket, and slammed her down. She heard the floorboards crack beneath her. Claws sank into her shoulder, digging deep. She screamed as he hauled her up like a rag doll and flung her across the room. She hit hard, air blasted from her lungs, arms flung wide. Dazed, she barely registered her fingertips brush something. Butcher loomed, drooling from crocodilian jaws, voice thick with hunger. Hungry. Pain seared through her, but Mickey reached, just a little further. He lunged, jaws gaping. She screamed as her fingers closed on the stake, and with every ounce of strength she had left, she drove it up, into the roof of his mouth. Golden sparks exploded. His head snapped back as if kicked by a battle charger. His shriek curdled the air, jaw blackened, cracked, hanging limp. Mononobe snarled, ripping the cord backward. Butcher's shriek morphed into a squeal as his severed hand flew through the air. He tried to leap back, but couldn't. Looking down, he saw Mickey clamped onto his arm. "Where the hells do you think you're going?" she asked. Her eyes flared. Golden light crackled. Her hair lifted, alive with static, as she pooled her anima into a seething, roiling mass. She sensed its eagerness, its want to be unleashed. The air thickened, tingling against her skin as it built into something almost solid. When it reached the edge, when she couldn't hold it any longer, she released her storm. Lightning exploded from her hands. Thunder cracked, a gut punch of sound. The world turned white, but she felt Butcher's arm shriveling, burning. Then his body hurled backward. He crashed into the far wall, hard. Mickey swooned as whiplash turned her legs to jelly. Standing was a struggle. Moving was worse. But her vision returned, and fury kept her upright. Mononobe appeared at her side, silent and bloodied, and offered back her gun. Her breath came in ragged gasps, but her hand was steady as she took it. Together, they turned toward the vampire abomination. Jaw unhinged, faint whimpers tore from his throat as he writhed on the floor, stump-like limbs flailing. Wide, bloody eyes locked on the approaching duo, and for the first time, they filled with fear. He shrieked, a high, keening wail, then turned and bolted, crashing through the doorway so hard it nearly came off its hinges. "Yeah, you'd better run," Mickey called, wobbling as she raised a fist, then collapsed on her ass. "Bastard," she wheezed. "Could have at least jumped through the window." "Some people are just plain inconsiderate," Mononobe agreed. Bullets whizzed through the room. Mickey yelped, rolling herself behind cover as Mononobe shambled to the door, shooting back before slamming it shut. "Not done yet," Mononobe called, scanning the room. "With Butcher gone, they won't wait much longer. Cover me!" Mickey forced herself upright, back against the wall, and fired a few rounds into the hall. "Running low," she called. A loud scraping noise made her glance back to see Mononobe shoving the large desk toward the door. She rolled aside as he rammed it into place, bracing it as makeshift cover. There was a loud whump as a hole the size of a basketball punched through the wall where she'd been sitting seconds before. She dropped beside him. "How we doing?" she panted. Mononobe, sliding a speed loader into his pistol, raised a brow. "Dandy," he muttered, snapping the cylinder shut. "This is all I have left, Miss McFinn. You?" "Halfway through my last clip," she admitted. "Not to worry, though. All part of the plan." Mononobe peered through a hole in the desk, then shot her a disbelieving look. "This is part of your plan?" Mickey winked, offering him her gun. "Be a dear and cover me for a second." He looked at her like she'd sprouted wings from her forehead, then shrugged, took the weapon, triggered the enhancements on his own gun, and fired into the hallway. Screams followed as purplish energy from his pistol ate through everything it touched like fast-acting acid. Mickey threw herself back into the room. She moved with the grace of a baby giraffe, but she crawled to where she'd dropped her purse, snatched it, and scrambled back behind the desk. "What was all that about?" Mononobe asked as splinters burst past his shoulder. "The plan!" Mickey shouted, holding up a wind-up toy car. Mononobe's jaw dropped so far it almost left a divot in the floor. "That's your plan?" "You got a better idea?" she shot back. He blinked. I don't know how to respond to that," he yelled, firing another round. "We have less than 20 seconds before they take us." "Perfect. I only need 5. A bullet zipped past his head. "Oh, good," he muttered, popping up to fire 3 more rounds. Shouts and curses followed as the gunfire outside redoubled. 10 seconds! Mickey twisted the car's wind-up knob and closed her eyes. "Plenty of time," she muttered. She focused. All she had to do was infuse her power into the foci, keep it stable, then let it go. Simple, right? She braced herself behind a lungful of air. Her body hurt. Her hands shook. Her anima reserves were depleted. Blocking it all out was impossible. So she didn't try. Instead, she embraced it. Let the fear and adrenaline fuel it. And reaching toward the runes, she sensed Rosie's craftsmanship pull at her anima. Perfect. Precise. Once the connection clicked, channeling power was easy. The hard part was containing the lightning, controlling the locking foci, enhancing the explosive potential. All at once, while exhausted. And being shot at. A bullet whipped past, close enough to stir her hair, and her focus slipped. The car sparked. Mononobe shouted something, but she gritted her teeth, forcing herself to concentrate. She stabilized the energy, locked it into place. Then, with a final push, she boosted. The magic snapped together like 1,000 shards of porcelain, reforming into a perfect vase. She exhaled, opened her eyes. The flickering sparks faded. The car sat innocently in her hand. "Be ready to move," she said, setting the toy on the ground. She looked at Mononobe. "Before that, though," she released the car. "You might want to duck." The toy shot into the hallway with a high-pitched whir of spring-loaded wheels. "What was that?" she heard Mononobe ask, just as she curled into a tight ball. "Oh, shit!" Mononobe dove as Mickey released the working. The blast rocked the building. The desk slid back several feet, sending both of them into a tangled heap. Mickey's ears rang. Whiplash unwound her thoughts like a spool of thread slipping loose. The world dulled. Limbs trembling, she lay there, stunned. For a moment, time didn't exist. Then, like a yo-yo snapping back, her brain kicked in. She blinked, suddenly aware of the dust and debris choking the air. Her eyes stung. Her throat was raw. She coughed. "See?" she croaked, untangling herself from Mononobe. "Exactly as planned." Mononobe grunted, but pushed to his feet. "Not out yet." His periwinkle eyes faded back to normal as he handed her gun back. She accepted it with a nod. Somehow, they stumbled around the desk and into the hallway. Or what used to be the hallway. The place was wrecked. Debris everywhere. Bits of furniture and other squishier things dropped from the ceiling. The bar was empty, save for one frazzled-looking Harvey, shotgun trembling in his hands. At the sight of them, battered, bloodied, but still armed. He dropped the weapon and bolted for the exit. Outside, a crowd had gathered, but there was no sign of the leather-clad vampires. Or their lackeys. A detached part of Mickey's mind noticed some motorcycles were missing. The rest of her? She holstered her gun, staggered to the curb, and flopped onto it. People shouted questions. She ignored them. A moment later, someone sat beside her. She rested her head against something. Soft or hard, she couldn't tell. Her hearing must have cleared. She heard sirens approaching. Great job, Mick. Now what? She was still trying to work up an answer when darkness enveloped everything.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Mythic Chronicles. The story continues every Tuesday and Thursday. If you're enjoying the journey, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast. Your words might help bring more mythics into the fold. To listen ahead, unlock bonus content, and gain access to VIP Discord roles and behind-the-scenes updates, check out our Patreon or visit us at SeanTLaffertyBooks.com. I'm Sean. Thanks again for being here.